Have you ever listened to an argument and just felt like something was off, but you couldn't quite say why? Well, a lot of the time, that feeling comes down to somebody using flawed logic. Today, we're going to dive into how these logical statements work, and I'll give you the tools to see right through a bad argument. Let's get into it.
So here's the big question we're tackling. If a statement is true, does that automatically mean its opposite or a flipped version of it is also true? You know, like if we say, if you're a great chef, you use fresh ingredients. Does that mean if you use fresh ingredients, you're a great chef? It sounds plausible, but is it really? That's the kind of logical knot we're going to learn how to untangle. And here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll nail down the basic if-then statement. Then, we'll look at the 3 ways you can change it: the inverse, the converse, and the really cool one, the contrapositive. And to wrap it all up, we'll see how this stuff pops up in the real world.
Okay, let's start at the beginning with our fundamental building block, the if-then statement. Pretty much every logical argument we're going to look at today is built on this simple structure.
To keep things really simple and clear, we're going to use one example through this whole explainer. If it is raining, then the ground is wet. Makes sense, right? We'll call the if part P and the then part Q. So the structure is just, if P happens, then Q happens.
So, what's the first thing people do to twist a statement like this? They create something called the inverse. And honestly, it's probably the most common logical mistake people make, mainly because it sounds so right.
Making the inverse is super easy. All you do is take your original if and then parts, and you just add the word not to both of them. That's it. So let's see how that changes our example. If it is raining, then the ground is wet. Becomes, if it is not raining, then the ground is not wet. See? On the surface, that sounds totally logical, doesn't it? But let's pump the brakes for a second. Just because the original statement is true, does that guarantee that this new inverse version is also true?
And the answer is a big, fat no. This is exactly where the logic falls apart. Just because it's not raining doesn't mean the ground can't be wet. I mean, what if a sprinkler's on, or someone's washing her car? The inverse is not logically the same, and assuming it is, well, that's a classic logical trap.
Okay, let's move on to the second way people mess with logic. This one is called the converse. And this time, instead of adding not, we're just going to flip the whole thing around.
For the converse, you literally just swap the 2 parts. The then part moves to the front and becomes the new if, and the old if part moves to the back. So here's what that looks like. Our original, if it's raining, then the ground is wet, becomes, if the ground is wet, then it is raining. And again, you can kind of see how someone would make that leap. It almost feels right. But just like the inverse, this one doesn't hold up. The ground being wet doesn't prove it's raining. Again, we're back to sprinklers, fire hydrants, car washing, you name it. Believing the converse is true is another one of those super common logical fallacies. And this is a perfect way to see it. Think about the original statement. If a shape is a square, then it has 4 sides. Totally true, right? 100%. But the converse is, if it has 4 sides, then it is a square, and that is absolutely false. A rectangle has 4 sides. This shows you just how easy it is to end up with a false statement just by flipping it around. All right, so we've seen 2 versions that are unreliable, but now we get to the star of the show, the contrapositive. This is the one you really want to pay attention to because it's like the original statement's logical twin.
So what is this magic move? Well, we basically just combine the 2 things we already learned. We're going to switch the if and then parts, and we're going to add not to both of them. It's a switch and negate combo move.
So think of it like this. You start with your original if P, then Q. First, you do the converse. You switch them. So now you have if Q, then P. Then, you do the inverse. You negate both parts. That leaves you with the final contrapositive. If not Q, then not P. It's just switch, then negate.
So let's go back to our rain example one last time. The original is, if it is raining, then the ground is wet. The contrapositive becomes, if the ground is not wet, then it is not raining. Now just think about that for a second. If the ground is totally dry, could it possibly be raining? Of course not. That statement is rock solid, isn't it?
And here it is, the big reveal. This is the key takeaway for this whole thing. A statement and its contrapositive are always logically the same. If one is true, the other is true. If one is false, the other is false. They are perfect logical twins, and that is an incredibly useful thing to know. Okay, so why does any of this matter outside of a logic class? Because now you have a new superpower. You can start to spot flawed arguments everywhere. in commercials, in politics, sometimes even in your own head. The contrapositive is basically your new lie detector. If you hear someone make a big if-then claim, and you're not sure about it, just mentally flip it into its contrapositive. If that new statement holds up, the original one is probably solid too.
Let's try it with a classic campaign promise. If I am elected mayor, then crime rates will go down. Now, what they want you to believe is the flawed inverse. If you don't elect me, crime rates will not go down. Or the flawed converse. Hey, crime rates went down, so that proves I was the right choice. Both are logical traps. The only thing they've actually guaranteed is the contrapositive. If crime rates do not go down, then that means I was not elected. It's a much more precise and testable claim when you look at it that way.
So now you've got the toolkit. You can tell the difference between a solid argument and a sneaky fake. The only question is, what flawed argument are you going to notice first? Keep an ear out. You'll be surprised how often they pop up.